I always assumed my 20th birthday would be quiet, maybe even a little depressing. 2 decades in, nothing remarkable had ever happened to me. I wasn't the star of the family. That was my older brother, before he left. My mom hovered, but was mostly distant, and my stepdad had been in our lives just long enough to make things uncomfortable. The only person who ever made me feel special was my grandmother. She had a way of looking at you, like she could see all the best parts, even when you felt like you didn't have any. My birthday dinner was at her house, like it always was. The dining room glowed with the kind of warmth you only get from old chandeliers and years of family meals. My mom fussed with the cake, my stepdad made awkward small talk, and my grandmother watched quietly, a small smile on her lips. I sat between her and my mother, the candles already melting into the icing. After the singing, when I was sure the night would end with just a few gifts and maybe some nostalgia, Grandma slid a slim, navy envelope across the table toward me. Her fingers lingered on it for a second longer than they needed to. "Open it," she said, voice steady but unusually formal. Inside was a thick, cream-colored letterhead. My name was at the top in elegant print, but that was all I caught before I had to read it twice. I looked up, confused, and she nodded. "It's yours," Grandma said. "All of it." My hand shook. I looked at my mother, her mouth slightly open, fork frozen halfway to her lips. My stepdad leaned forward, eyebrows raised. The letter was straightforward. As of today, I was the sole owner of Goldcrest Holdings, Grandma's company, her empire. The name alone was worth headlines, but the figure at the bottom made my head spin. $300 million. A company with thousands of employees, contracts across the country. Mine. I laughed at first. I thought it was some elaborate joke. But Grandma just watched, her expression as unreadable as always. My mom finally found her voice. "Mother, what are you talking about?" she snapped. "That's not. This is ridiculous." But Grandma's attention never left me. "You're 20 now. I built Goldcrest for family. And I choose you." Everyone was silent. Even the candles seemed to flicker less. I felt the weight of every eye on me, their shock, confusion, and something darker, just beginning to form at the edge of the room. I wanted to say no. I wanted to ask what I was supposed to do with a company with that much power. But what came out was, I'll do my best. "Thank you, Grandma. I won't let you down." She smiled, and for a moment I felt proud, like I'd finally done something right. But as I looked around, I realized the room had changed. My mother's jaw was clenched, my stepdad's face had gone pale, and suddenly my birthday felt less like a celebration and more like the start of a storm. The next morning, the house felt like a crime scene. No one was talking about what happened, but you could feel the tension in the air, tight and sour, like a thunderstorm about to break. I woke up early, heart pounding, replaying my grandmother's words over and over. I still half believed I'd dreamed it. But the letter was real, sitting on my nightstand, its official seal pressing into the wood like a threat. Breakfast was a silent affair. My mother and stepdad barely looked at me. My grandmother had already left, slipping out before dawn the way she always did when she had business. I poked at my cereal, aware of every movement in the room. My mother's lips were thin, eyes rimmed red from a sleepless night. My stepdad sat stiffly, glancing between the two of us, waiting. It wasn't until that evening, when the dinner dishes were stacked, and my mother poured herself a second glass of wine, that the dam finally broke. She cleared her throat, straightened her posture, and announced in a voice that didn't sound like hers, "Your stepfather will be taking over Goldcrest's operations effective immediately." The words slammed into me. For a moment, I honestly thought I'd misheard her. I looked at my stepdad, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. My mother continued, "He has experience. He's managed companies before. You're too young for this kind of responsibility, and frankly, it's best for everyone." Best for everyone. Like I was just a detail in her plans, something to be worked around. The humiliation burned through my shock. "You can't just hand him my company," I said. My voice was shaking, but I tried to sound steady. "Grandma gave it to me." My mother's jaw tightened. "You don't understand the pressure this puts on our family," she replied. "Your grandmother has always done what she wanted, but you need guidance. Your stepfather will help transition the company until you're ready." I could feel my throat closing, anger bubbling up. "No," I said. "I won't sign anything. I won't let him take it. If Grandma wanted him in charge, she would have said so." My mother's eyes flashed. "Don't be childish. This isn't a game. Do you have any idea what's at stake? Your stepfather is more qualified. You'll still be involved, but this is what's best for the company. For us." I stood up, hands clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. "No," I repeated, louder this time. It's mine. I'm not handing it over. My stepdad finally spoke, voice cool and rehearsed. I know this is hard, but your mother and I are just trying to protect you and Goldcrest. Think it over. But I didn't need time. I left the table, the air behind me heavy with disappointment and something else, like betrayal, but sharper. That night, I stared at the ceiling, wide awake. I realized I was no longer just a daughter or a stepchild. I was the new owner of a $300 million company. And apparently, that made me the enemy in my own home. That be why the next day, the silence in the house had mutated into something worse, open hostility. I could feel my mother's eyes on me as I got ready, every movement tense. My stepdad acted like I was invisible. It felt like my birthday had detonated a bomb no one knew how to clean up. I tried to avoid everyone. But just before lunch, my mother cornered me in the hallway. She looked tired, her makeup smudged and hair unbrushed. "Sit down," she said, her tone flat and cold. I hesitated, then sat at the edge of the living room sofa, my hands fidgeting in my lap. She stayed standing, arms crossed, as if she needed the height advantage. "You're making a mistake," she started. "You're too young. You don't know what you're doing." I swallowed, already tired of this argument. "Grandma trusts me. She wouldn't have done this if she didn't think I could handle it." My mother shook her head. "You're being naive. She's always favored you. Don't let it go to your head." She paused, searching my face for a flicker of doubt. "You have a choice to make. Either accept your stepfather's help and sign over day-to-day control, or you can leave this house." The words hit harder than I expected. For a moment, I thought she was bluffing. I stared at her, waiting for her to laugh or take it back, but she didn't blink. "You can't be serious," I said. "I'm your daughter. I have nowhere else to go." Her lips pressed into a thin, colorless line. "You're an adult now. You want to play at being a business owner? Then act like one. You're not living here if you keep defying us." I felt the world tilt sideways. My own mother was kicking me out unless I gave up the company. I searched her eyes, desperate for some sign that she still loved me, that I mattered beyond the money. All I saw was anger, maybe fear. I thought about backing down, about begging her to reconsider. But something inside me hardened. "I'm not signing anything," I said, my voice steady for the first time. "You can't make me." She looked at me for a long moment, her face unreadable. Then she turned and walked away. Alone in the silent living room, the truth settled in. I didn't have a family anymore. Not in any way that counted. All I had was a company I barely understood, a grandmother whose motives I suddenly doubted, and a future that felt more like a punishment than a gift. But I wouldn't give them what they wanted. I refused to let them win. The house was quieter than ever. Every door I closed echoed like a final decision. I barely slept, afraid of what would happen next, but also strangely relieved. I had made my choice, and now the fallout would be theirs to handle. By late afternoon, the tension broke with the unexpected sound of my grandmother's laughter from the front hall. It was so out of place, so out of character in that moment, that everyone stopped what they were doing. My mother poked her head out of the kitchen, frowning. My stepdad straightened up from where he sat scrolling on his phone. I emerged from my room, clutching the letter I'd been rereading all day like a lifeline. Grandma strolled in with a cane she didn't need, grinning like she was at some private joke. She took in the faces, my mother's anger, my stepdad's anxious posture, my own uncertainty, and just shook her head. "Well," she said, almost sighing, "this is a glum little gathering for such a historic occasion." No one answered. I could see my mother about to erupt, but Grandma cut her off with a glance. "I hear there's been some debate about my birthday present," she went on. Her gaze lingered on my stepdad, then shifted to my mother. "Don't bother pretending I'm not aware. This family's never been good at keeping secrets." My mother drew herself up, trying to regain control. "Mother, you can't possibly expect her to run the company. She's a child." Grandma raised a hand. "You were barely older when I put you on payroll, dear." Her tone made my mother shrink. "Besides, youth isn't a crime. Entitlement is." The room stilled. My stepdad tried to sound reasonable. "I only want what's best for Goldcrest, and for her. We have experience she doesn't." Grandma actually laughed, a sharp, rich sound. "Experience? If all it took was experience, this house would be worth more than the company." For the first time since my birthday, I felt a rush of hope. Grandma looked at me, her eyes sparkling. "Do you know why I chose you?" she asked. I shook my head, unable to speak. She leaned forward, her voice low but clear. Because you know what it feels like to be overlooked. You know how to listen, how to see people no one else notices. That's rare, especially in this family. No one said a word. My mother looked ready to explode. My stepdad glanced at the floor, and I just stared at my grandmother, waiting for her to go on. She smiled, her fingers tapping the cane. But I didn't come here for speeches. She looked around, eyes lingering on each of us. I came because I have one more surprise. The silence deepened. I saw fear flicker across my mother's face for the first time, and my heart hammered in my chest. Whatever Grandma was about to say, I knew it would change everything again. Grandma reached into her handbag and pulled out a slim envelope, this one even fancier than the first. She held it up like a magician revealing her final card. This, she said, is the key to everything. My mother's eyes narrowed, and my stepdad straightened, a flicker of panic flashing through his expression. What is that? My mother demanded. Grandma smiled slyly. It's the updated trust agreement. I prepared it weeks ago, in case things got complicated. She paused, savoring the moment. This document names my granddaughter, not my son-in-law or my daughter, as the sole and undisputed owner and decision-maker of Goldcrest Holdings. The room was electric with shock. My mother's face paled, my stepdad's jaw tightened. That's impossible, he said. We've been managing the company for years. This is just a prank. Grandma shook her head, firm and unyielding. No prank. This is the real deal. And it's legally binding. I took the envelope, hands trembling but steady. Inside was the trust, signed and notarized, with a clause that cut off any interference from my mother or stepdad. It was like a shield, guarding me from their power grab. Tears welled in my eyes, not from relief, but from a sudden, overwhelming rush of gratitude mixed with disbelief. Grandma had known all along. She had seen the betrayal coming and had planned for it, ensuring I wouldn't be left alone in this fight. My mother's lips quivered, but no words came. My stepdad looked like he wanted to argue but knew better. I looked at Grandma, who smiled with quiet pride. This is just the beginning, she said softly. But now, you're protected. For the first time in days, I felt the weight on my shoulders lift. The battle wasn't over, but the tide had turned. I wasn't just the birthday girl with a company anymore. I was the rightful owner, backed by the person who mattered most. The next few days were a whirlwind of meetings, legal documents, and cold stares. I was no longer the naive girl who'd accepted a birthday gift. I had become the owner, the decision-maker, and the target. Grandma was my unexpected anchor throughout it all, guiding me through the complex world of boardrooms and contracts. She made it clear that while the company was mine, I wasn't expected to manage everything alone, yet. She had assembled a trusted team, ready to help me steer Goldcrest in the right direction. Meanwhile, my mother and stepdad retreated into silence, their earlier aggression replaced by bitter resentment. They made it clear, in subtle and not-so-subtle ways, that they expected me to fail. But I refused to give them the satisfaction. One afternoon, Grandma called a family meeting in the old study, a room thick with history and heavy with old money. My mother and stepdad arrived, their faces a mask of polite civility, but I could see the calculation behind their eyes. Grandma sat between us, her cane resting across her lap. The trust is final, she said firmly. Goldcrest is no longer up for debate. My mother's jaw clenched, but she said nothing. My stepdad shifted uneasily. From now on, Grandma continued, all decisions regarding the company will be made by my granddaughter. No exceptions. No interference. It was the moment I'd dreamed of but never believed I'd reach. I nodded, feeling a mix of pride and determination. I accept this responsibility, I said, voice steady. Grandma smiled, her eyes glistening. Good. Because this company isn't just a business. It's a legacy. And now, it's yours to shape. As my mother and stepdad left the room, their silence was louder than any argument. The power balance had shifted irrevocably. For the first time, I truly felt like I was in control. The days that followed were a strange mix of relief and uncertainty. I moved out of the house, not because I was forced, but because I needed space. Space to breathe, to think, to plan. The company was mine, but the family I'd known was fractured beyond repair. I found a small apartment near the city, a modest place compared to the grand halls I'd grown up in, but it was mine. And in that quiet space, I started to understand what ownership really meant. It wasn't just about money or power. It was about legacy, responsibility, and choices. I spent hours poring over reports, meeting with advisors, and learning how to navigate a world I'd never imagined I'd be part of. Sometimes, I felt overwhelmed. Sometimes, I missed the comfort of family, even the toxic parts. But every time doubt crept in, I remembered Grandma's words. This was my chance to be different. I wasn't just inheriting a company. I was inheriting a story, a chance to rewrite it on my own terms. And I was ready. The future was mine to build. The legacy was mine to define. No one could take that away from me. This was just the beginning.